Jimmy, that handle came out great.
Yeah, really nice.
Really, really happy with the way that came out. And Doug, the quick releases and the grub screw handle adapters are great. Doug always makes a quality product. And as you know, we saw a lot of Doug's bowl gouges and a lot of your bowl gouges. And I know you've told me in the past, but I don't remember the actual difference between your bowl gouge and Doug's standard U and V bowl gouges. I know you don't. Most of your stuff is unique products, not just the off-the-shelf stuff with Jimmy's name slapped on it. So what's the difference in there?
Right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll take you right back to the beginning. I can't remember the year, but at the Portland show, the AAW show in Portland, whenever it was, Doug came around the show, not as a vendor, anything like that, and came around the show, and that's when I was introduced to him, and he had a few tools I was making, and he brought out a bowl gouge, and he said, Jimmy, I would like you to try the bowl gouge. And I looked at it. What I noticed straight away is the bevel, the flute wasn't ground deep enough, and therefore that it had quite a deep bevel. I preferred with shorter bevel. Therefore, with the shorter bevel, you can go around the tighter curve. So I said to him, look, Doug, would you do me a favour to take it back and grind, get a V grind, the V tool, not the U, get a V and grind it deeper. What that did, it reduced the length of the bevel, which allows you to go around the tighter curve, as I mentioned earlier. And it changes the V. It's not a true V anymore, which I don't prefer. I don't like the V cut because you've got a flatter flat and a small radius at the bottom. If you've got a U, you've got more of a chance of catching the wing. However, with mine, because you grind it deeper, you've got a shorter bevel, which will go around tighter curve, and you've got more of a parabolic curve. So I've got a change in different lengths of curves from a tighter curve at the flute to a softer curve on the wing. And the other thing is, the V grind does it well anyway, but my tool sweeps back nicely into a nice soft curve on the wing. You can't grind a U gouge into a... You can, but it's not my preferred profile. I prefer a slight curve on the wing. So what Doug did by grinding it deeper, and that's why I put my name to it. I would never put my name to an off-the-shelf tool because I didn't have any influence. I had influence on the Jimmy Clewes box scraper from Doug, also the gougers from Mike Hunter, the Jimmy Clewes, the Mate 1 and 2. I had an influence on them tools, and so I don't mind putting my name to them because I had a genuine influence on them.
Most people don't know this, but me and you have been butting heads over scrapers, Carbide. Well, let's go back to Carbide cutting tools for years. I always thought there was a good reason to use Carbide tools from a dealer perspective, that I didn't have to worry as much about somebody hanging a tool and killing themselves or getting injured with a bowl gouge that they didn't know how to run out of my store. That's where I saw that the Carbide tools were great, because a lot of those tools make it easier to run the first time and not get big hangs and big catches.
So basically...
And you took, I guess, what we had discussed and refined it much better than we'd ever discussed with your new tools.
Right, well, okay, then, so up until now, although, not quite up until now, most beginners, if they haven't mastered how to use the cut tools, the fluted tools, which a lot of them don't, understandably, it's a new tool, a new process, they'll either have the flute too open, too closed, whatever, and they'll get catches, and what they do is revert to a scraper. That's just inevitable. That's what beginner woodturners do. Nothing wrong with scraping. It's a way of removing timber. It's not necessarily the most efficient way of doing it. Depending on the woods, although then again, some woods scrape better than they could. Lignum actually scrapes better than it cuts. It's a really dense, oily wood, very akin to metal. So going back to the scrapers and the Carbide tools, nothing wrong with them. However, they have a tendency to self-feed. There's no limit on the way they will feed into the wood. And as I say, a beginner will revert to a scraper because they can get a half decent result. Yet they may start with what's often referred to as a 60 grit tool. You know,
said they only start with 36 grit sandpaper to get a finish.
But again, up to a point, that doesn't matter because they should take wood turning tool as a skill that suits them as an individual. Who cares if you scrape? The only problem with scraping is there's more resistance than a cut. If you catch a knot in something thin, you could blow the bowl because of that resistance. If you're cutting the wood, there's less resistance. You generally get a better finish on the wood, so there's not so much sanding to do. And so, basically, Mike Hunter and I got together. He produces some neat tools, but I wanted a cutting tool with one of his cutters, which I reckon are the best out there. A cutting tool that didn't self-feed. Now, a cutting tool is better than a scraping tool, generally, as a generalisation, and it's a more safer tool. It's on a wider bar. The bar doesn't twist. It cuts nicely. I had a night class student, Beth, the other night came in. She was turning the inside of a spoon, and she's been turning for 6 months? Every now and again, night classes, evening classes. She turned around. She said, "This is like cheating." She says, "Not turning, it's like cheating," and that's a nice comment. She feels comfortable. So what I'm hoping that tool is going to bridge the gap between the cutting tools, the gougers or the flute gougers, and the scrapers. The guys are they're going to feel safer. They're going to get a better result. The cutters are replaceable. The other thing though is every time you pick the tool up, move the cutter a fraction and wear it evenly. You'll get longer out of it. You'll be able to feel the cutters are $20, and they'll cut end grain, long grain, wet or dry wood. And so yeah, I'm really proud of it, and it's doing really well.
Well, I'm excited about them as a retailer, that I can give my customer a product that they don't have to spend.
Have more confidence in.
Yes.
They're not going to be as dangerous.
Right.
And it's not going to knock that's it, the confidence. If you
Right.
get a catch with a scraper, bam, it's just like, ooh.
Or even a fluted bowl gouge.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the whole idea is to keep people turning, not to run them off because they're scared of flinging something across the shop and getting them hurt.
And keep it safe.
I see where your product is a step above what's out there on the market right now, especially for beginners. And a lot of beginners don't want to take classes for whatever reason that may be, even though I don't. Well, whatever the reason.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of classes. It's much better, in my opinion, to take one class, spend $200, than to take a trip to the ER because you threw something and have to get a bunch of stitches. And I can say that because that's how I started. Very shortly after beginning, I wound up with a bunch of stitches out of a deal. I stuck with it, but a lot of people won't. And me as a retailer, I want them sticking with turning. Mm-hmm. And I think your product will bridge that gap between, I've got something I can turn with, but I'm not happy with the product, the finished product, or I got to spend a lot more time sanding, where yours is cutting and going to give them a finished product that they don't have to work their ass off to get to that point. So I'm really glad that you and Mike got together and came out with that product.
Yeah. It's been a good day. It's been interesting and a good journey.
That's what's always been fun about you and me is we'll sit around, bullshit, have a beer, and talk out things and come up with different ideas and bounce things off of each other. And there's not a lot of people who can do that.
The other thing is the marketplace has changed over the years as well.
Sure.
Wooden plates, they went out the door when ceramic came in. Mass-produced ceramic plates, cheaper, less expensive. You could bake 100 at a time, whatever. I remember going to when I was in college doing my degree, going to a factory in the potteries in England, and seeing how they produced all these plates and everything else. Amazing, absolutely amazing. But so, the turners of years ago had to make a living from this. Nobody turned for fun then, or very few turned for fun, or as a hobby. they had to earn a living from it. So when they stopped making wooden plates and bowls, then they concentrated on spindle work, and although that was always there. But now we're doing hollow forms, we're doing more artistic stuff, and the product has changed with what we're turning. Hollow forms
definitely.
and everything else. You know, I mean, years ago, as I say, the guys wouldn't have invented a tool to turn a hollow form because they couldn't make. Well, they could make it, but they couldn't sell it. They wanted a wooden vase. The ceramic ones, which were a fraction of the price.
Right.
You know, so it's all, and so would embellishments, gilt creams, for example, powders, fillers. You know, we celebrate the crack or whatever, you know, instead of trying to fill it with wood dust and glue, which looks filled with wood dust and glue.
Make it a focal point.
Absolutely. I mean, that stuff we've got coming out, the fluorescent powders.
The glow in the dark.
The glow in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, those filled in form. If you get the right piece of wood and fill with that glow in the dark powder, which lasts for 4 hours, good quality stuff. You know, but seriously, joking aside, it's going to look absolutely stunning. You switch the light off and you see the voids, you know, whatever. It's going to look absolutely awesome, man.
The first thing I did with it, I wound up sitting by the nightstand and didn't think anything about it. And watched TV for an hour or two and turned off the light and went to bed. And all of a sudden, there's this glowing thing in the corner of my room. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So, yeah, it's, neat little stuff that it's not for everybody. It's not going to, you don't put it in every piece, but just something neat to play with. And you see a different side of the whole turning world than I've ever seen. I'm from the American side, which most of what I have seen in the past is very little production turning and mostly hobbyist turning. We don't have an apprentice system over here that you grew up with and several of the other turners, the big name turners, grew up with. We don't know what that's like over here. You know, America wants instant gratification. And I see that from the retail side, that nobody wants to do spindle work anymore. To get tool control down, they want to be able to jump right in and do hollow forms without putting in the time learning spindle work.
Yeah, in England you always learn to spindle turn first. If you can roll a bead in a cove, you can use any other fluted tool. And a spindle turner can easily transition to bowls easily. A bowl turner has to learn to spindle turn. So it's just a discipline, different cultures. And on that cheerful note, I need another drink. So
let's
I'm
have
going to get a
one.
glass of wine. Absolutely. Absolutely.